Welcome back, everybody. Another exciting episode today. Last time we were together, George talked to us about repurposing library fields. He bored you to death with repurposing those fields in your library accounts. This week, we're going to slip you into a coma by making better use of that data. But first, introductions. I'm Christopher Brandon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at the Cadillac Ranch, at Northeast Kansas Library System. I just look like I'm at the Cadillac Ranch in Texas.
And our theme is repurposing, so that's why we've done the backgrounds here. Before we get into today's video, we're going to have a word about our grass-fed sponsor.
This video is sponsored by koha-US, your place to look for all things koha. Whether you're just starting out with koha or you've been with koha for a while, koha-US is a great place to find resources, learn new tips and techniques, or connect with other users and libraries. Koha-US provides excellent information, both original and curated from around the internet, including the terrific Every Other Day training videos. You will also find several special interest groups to connect with, as well as our general monthly meeting where we gather to talk about the latest koha news. You should also check out the koha-US annual conference, held at various locations around the US. This is a great opportunity to meet with other users face-to-face, and build your koha network, as well as new friendships. And of course, don't forget about the great presentations. Koha-US is also actively involved in the koha community by contributing towards new developments. If you are interested in contributing towards Koha-US funded developments, join the Koha-US membership. Your annual membership builds the funds to sponsor new developments in the community, and as a member, you also help shape Koha-US with your membership votes, and receive a discount on the annual conference. You can also contribute towards developments through a direct donation, or by purchasing some great koha-US merchandise through our Threadless account. Visit us at koha-us.org to find out more.
All right, George, take it away.
So last time we talked about renaming library fields in the library section of the admin console. And originally I did that because I wanted to rename those fields so I could keep track of what information was in there. Not long after that, though, I came up with this idea of writing a report that would populate a contact information sheet that I could keep on our circulation page in Next Search Catalog. So that way, before we used to tell librarians, if you need to contact another library, we would tell them to go to the Northeast Kansas Library System website, click on a link there that said, contact, member libraries, and then they would have to scroll through and find the library that they were trying to get in touch with, and it would have information like, phone number, address, and usually the director's name and the director's email address, all public information. So it was out there on our website. And for the Next Search library members, that was, there are 120 member libraries in Neckles in Northeast Kansas Library System, but there's only 50 libraries in Next Search Catalog. So if you're dealing with the Next Search Catalog issue, I said, wouldn't it be really easy if you could just click on circulation and there's a list there of all the libraries that are members,
Right.
Specifically in Next Search Catalog. And so for a long time, for about 5 years, I just had a report running that was pulling this data and plugging it into a table. And it was a report that was cached, and it was live for 12 hours. So somebody would log in the morning, the first person to click on circulation, that report would run and it would build the JSON data. And anytime anybody clicked on that for the next 12 hours, it would just reload that data from that first report that ran in the morning. And everything about that worked just fine until we did that MariaDB upgrade a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And then all of a sudden that report went from running in about 30, 40 seconds to not being able to complete after 5 minutes. It kept timing out. And what that meant is that the first person that would go to circulation in the morning would click on that circulation button and the report would start and the table wouldn't fill in. And somebody else would go to the circulation page and that report still hadn't been, that JSON cached report wouldn't have loaded. And so it would try and run it again. And what happened is we ended up with, one morning, we ended up with like 50 of these things running and they kept crashing and it shut down our whole system.
Wow.
So after some talking with Bywater Solutions, we just killed it. We killed the report, which was kind of frustrating because it was a report that ran fine for about 5 years and then it just stopped working all of a sudden. And I think we figured out what the issue was. It was a MariaDB issue, and there's a way we can probably reconfigure MariaDB. But in the meantime, you know, I wanted this table still to be there. So I figured out how to rewrite it. And honestly, I made it even better using the API. Because it used to be the table would only update every 12 hours. So if we changed information about a library, it wouldn't be on the contact page until the next day.
Right.
The nice thing about the API is that when you change something in the library information, it's immediately changed on the table the next time that page is loaded.
Right.
I was
it's
also
not so resource intensive either.
Yeah, it's not resource intensive. Instead of caching that report once a day through the API, it can run it 100 times a day and it's always live. It's always good information. And I was able to also change this into a data table. And I probably could have done this with the report, but what I did is I put a search box up here. So, you know, if you're trying to contact the Atchison Library or Baldwin City, that's pretty easy. But if you need to talk to Winchester or Wetmore, you got to scroll all the way down to the bottom. So I said, you know, what if I put a search box up here? And if we type Wetmore, it'll just show us, you know, both of the libraries that have that in there.
Nice.
In a clear box. So we can do burn, you know, any information, or if you're not sure which library director you need to get in touch with, you know, any information that's in the table, you can filter the table based on that.
That's great.
Yeah, it works really well and I'm really happy with it. One of the things we lost though, by converting to the API is the report automatically filled in some data. It filled in data about, you know, how many borrowers are there at this library, how many titles, how many items, circulation in the previous 12 months.
Statistical information.
Yeah, statistical information. And so the way that I dealt with that is I just put a button in there. When you click on the button, it runs the report for that branch. And this report does take a few seconds. It takes almost half a minute, but the data is still there. But this kind of information in that previous report and running slowly is what was causing that report to fail, because it was getting that information for 50 plus branches. And that's why the report was timing out.
Right.
So now you get the data, it takes about a half a minute to 45 seconds. Depending on what kind of load is on the server at the moment. And there it is. So the report that runs get current borrower count, current titles, items, checkouts in the previous 365 days, and the number of unique borrowers in the previous 365 days. So
nice.
And the reason that I had that data in the original table there is because for a time we were having a lot of libraries were asking me that information because it had to do with the vendor that was selling a third-party product, that they all needed to know that information. And I got tired of people calling me and saying, how many titles do we have? So by putting it in the contact page, it just made it really simple. I said, you know, go to Circ and look at your table. So, but let's talk about how we did this. So first off, I've got this tabbed content on That's on the library. It's on the Internet Circulation Home HTML. And I think we already did a video on how to add that tab content. Probably in the first season.
Yes, I think we did.
Yeah, we should probably find out and make sure we did that. Just in case I know that I talked about it at one of the Koha conferences, I think at the conference in Coeur d'Alene, about how I did that. But I've got tab content on the circ page, I've got tab content on the home page.
Mhm.
And it's really easy to plug that into the system preference for Internet Circ Home HTML or Internet Main or Internet Reports. I've also got it on there.
Actually, it's intranet.
Intranet, yeah. I'm saying that, but I'm speaking too fast. So what I've got is I create a table in that tab where I want it, and I call it library table, and I give it a filterable class, among other things. And I create the headers that I want, the THs, and I create a footer. And that's the table.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple. And then in intranet user JS, I've got this whole function that adds the rows to that table. And so the first thing I've got is I'm saying that if I'm on this page, circ home HTML, then I'm going to use JSON to get the library information from the API.
Okay.
And I'm going to create a variable called contact sheet, and it's currently empty. But for each piece of data in the API in that libraries, I'm going to create table data for each of those.
You're
and
plugging
all of
them
that
into variables.
Yeah, I'm turning all of these pieces from the API into variables, and I'm pumping those all into the contact sheet.
Okay.
And there's a couple of things that I'm doing here to create that report data, the report link. I need to get the branch for each row. And for a couple of those, for Donovan County, we have 4 branches that are all one library, but they have 4 locations. And for PH, I've got Prairie Hills, and they're one library, they're a school district with 5 locations. And so when I run this, if I were to run this report here for any of the Donovan County libraries, it's going to run the same report for all 4 of these, which is going to show the data for all 4 of the Donovan County libraries. And I'll run that and let it run in the background. So that's what this is doing, is it's saying if the report branch starts with Donovan, it's going to put that DONI wildcard into the link to run the report. And the same is true with Prairie Hills. If it starts with a PH, it's going to replace the full branch code with PH wildcard so that the proper report runs.
Okay.
But then the contact sheet, as it builds, it's just taking those variables and it's plugging them into the table. It creates a TD for the library contact information. It's doing a TD for the phone and director information. And it's getting the logo. In the last episode, I talked about how we put the logo into the HTML section of each library. And so it's pulling the logo out of that data.
Right.
The other thing that it's doing is, I talked about this the last time. I've got this director information. I've got that information. I use pipes to separate the director and the ILL staff and the library type. And so in this in this variable for the director, I'm saying every time it sees one of those pipes, it's going to replace it with a line break.
Okay. I could see that. I could see somebody doing a variation of this if they were using fields, more of their fields and couldn't repurpose them. Maybe they could put all their information in a field and separate it with pipes. And if they always have the same amount of pipes, they could always split that information off, kind of like in this manner to divide it into different variables.
It's a workaround, and that's why, I said at the end of the last video that we had talked about, library extended attributes like borrower extended attributes. That would be really useful for us because we've got information that we have to have about each library, and there isn't a place to put it
Right.
in that library information. And in order, if I were to open a bug in the Koha community and say, we need a place in there to put the library's Kansas Library Express courier code, that's really only important to the people in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And so to modify Koha to suit that one need, it seems to me it would be a lot better just to have library extended attributes where libraries could add the fields that they want and, add drop downs, there's all kinds of stuff that we could do to customize Koha on a library by library basis that wouldn't have to completely change Koha for everybody.
Right.
Just having those extended attributes would be helpful. So I get all of this information. That's what this whole function here though does, is it's getting the stuff from the API. It's changing a bit of it. It's doing some find and replaces on some of it, and it's organizing it all into the table so that it's easy for me to put it into that table. And that's what this part does is, at each row, it's finding the stuff it needs and it's plugging that all into this contact sheet variable. And then at the end, it's taking that contact sheet and it's appending all of that information to that table that I created in this other system preference that I called library table.
Okay.
And so that's what we get when we click on here is all of this, I get the directors, I've got the director information set up so the director is in bigger letters. I've embiggened the director contact stuff. I've got the line breaks there. I've got all of the logos I want. And I've got a button that links it out to the website if we want to go to the Burlingame website. And they all have their courier route number. And so that's what I'm doing. And then down here, I've got this, I've added the filterable stuff that is already in the Koha wiki to this particular table. I'm trying to remember who wrote that filterable stuff on the Koha wiki. Like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I think it was somebody from Coeur d'Alene.
I don't know.
So
I don't even remember doing that. So
yeah, it's still got your name on it on the Koha wiki. So it was stuff that you wrote and that I modified a little bit way back in 2012, when a lot of those tables weren't data tables yet. It was a way of adding a class to a table and making it filterable. So
sounds kind of handy.
Yeah, it worked out for me for this time around. So that's, this was a lot easier than doing it with the report, and the advantages, of course, are, that this is live. So if I change information on any of these libraries, instead of waiting 24 hours, it's immediate, it's faster, it loads faster than the report that wasn't working at all anymore. So
right. Can you talk briefly about the report because since you're showing that you can link to this report, it'd be nice to see it, maybe briefly about that report and what you're doing in it.
Oh, the quick data report.
Mhm.
Yeah, here's the report. Here's how it shows up for Donovan County. Like I said, by changing that, doing that find replace and putting Donovan in there, anytime you run it for one of the Donovan County libraries, you get results for all of the Donovan County libraries. But the report is just well, essentially it's a series of subqueries. So I'm getting the library name from the branches table. And then I'm running a subquery called borrower count that's getting me a count of all of the borrowers. I'm running another subquery to get the biblio count. I'm running another subquery to get the item count, and I'm running another 2 subqueries to get the checkout count, and it's between current date interval -1 year and current date. So it's everything in the last 365 days. And then it's getting a unique borrower count by doing the same thing, just counting in the statistics table the borrower numbers for that branch.
Okay.
So it's a pretty simple report. I think the only thing weird about it is that I'm using one of my custom authorized values to get the branch name.
Okay.
Or to get the branch information. So it's a pretty simple report.
Nice. Okay. And we'll make sure we have all of that linked so that you can refer to all of those notes. And yeah, that looks really handy. I mean, we on our library, or excuse me, in our consortium, we have links in our CERC page for ILL staff and for directors, but we maintain those in separate documents from our website. So somebody goes in there and updates that information. So having all this in a centralized location about the library seems a little bit handier in my opinion. I'm thinking about maybe implementing what you've done there, so it's all centralized. I like having all that just handy on that page rather than having to go out to another source and grabbing that information that's maintained or curated differently. So
yeah, the thing that I like about it, is that I like it, when people have Koha questions, I like to have the answers as much as possible in Koha. So if they don't have to go out to a separate website and do a search in a contact list that's maintained somewhere else, the more that can be in Koha, I think the easier it is for staff.
yeah.
And that's one thing that I find that staff like, is they like it when things are easy.
Yep. Easy good.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, George, thank you for sharing those modifications. I'm hoping that people find that handy. And remember, just a reminder, you can find all our videos on our website at the koha-us.org website, but you can also find our videos at youtube.com/koha-us, no dash in there. You'll find all the videos that we carry, not just these training videos, but from a lot of our general meetings and SIG meetings. And you can subscribe to those different video groups or playlists. We'd also appreciate it if you would like our videos. If you found something particularly useful, please like it. Subscribe to the videos if you're interested in wanting to be notified when new videos come out. And if you have comments, please comment. We check those comments regularly. So if you have something to say, if you find that we've made a mistake, if you find that you have something to add, please, by all means, comment so that everybody can share in that, and we know that we're doing things right or wrong, however we can help you. So
Well, and if you don't want your comments to be seen by everybody else, just email info@koha-US.com.
Yep.
And say, I want to talk to those idiots. I got a complaint.
All right. Well, George, thank you for sharing, and we will see everybody again in 2 weeks.
Yep, we'll see you later.